All right, welcome into another edition of the Goodman and Hummel podcast. Luckily, I'm doing it without Robbie Hummel. You know, listen, the bottom line here is it gets old. You know, like hearing about Hummel and his knees and his 19-inch vertical, it gets a little old. So Scott Van Pelt going solo here, and we're just going to talk some hoops. We're literally just going to talk some hoops, right, Scott?
I love it. I mean, it's a great time of year and a lot of news. I mean, some interesting news today that you're right there in the middle of. What a great guy. What a great coach Lon Kruger is.
The best. I mean, honestly, one of the best human beings you will ever deal with. I don't know how much you dealt with him. I'm sure a decent amount.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he just like the best thing about Lon Kruger is you walk into the arena before a game, Scott, and he's sitting there by himself in the stands. Like most coaches, they're on the bench. They don't want to be bothered. Lon Kruger's literally in the stands, so any fan can go up and sit next to him and start talking to him an hour before the game. Like, just a different dude. Every practice is open. The sport is going to miss Lon Kruger.
Yeah, but I mean, you saw the joy in that Zoom call with his son. And now, I think, here's the thing about this profession, and you could probably say about a lot of professions. You do it, and there's this treadmill kind of a deal, right? Where you're just on the treadmill and you're grinding, but it's not a treadmill because time's passing. Right. And, there's a rhythm to it. And obviously it's been disrupted this year, but I mean, there's the season and then there's the spring and then there's a summer and you recruit, then you get in with your guys and then it's fall and then you into it and then it's conference and then hopefully you're in a tournament and then it starts again, right? Yeah. Well, you look up and it's like, wow, man, 25 years. Like it's in a blink. And I think I get why for Boeheim or for Kay or for any of these uber successful coaches, like you keep doing it, and particularly in Kay's case, you got a grandson, right? And in Jim's case, you got a son. Right. I get staying in, but I respect the hell out of somebody that has the ability to stop the treadmill and go, wait, I'm going to go to Vegas. I'm going to hang out. I'm going to watch my boy, and I'm going to be present in life. That's tremendous, and it's just you know the sport so well, and I think that the people that just look from the outside in, you can tell by the reaction across the board from people who've covered the sport how authentic and sincere their praise for Lon is.
Awesome. And that's what he's going to do. He told me he's not going in any official capacity. He's just literally going to be around his son, Kevin, who kind of surprisingly got the job as the head coach of UNLV and spent time with his grandkids. He built it's funny. So I remember breaking this story years ago when Lon went to Oklahoma. I think I was at either a regional or Final Four. I can't remember what, but it shocked the hell out of me because at that point he was building a house in Vegas. So he must have sold that house in Vegas at that point, has been at Oklahoma, and now he built a house again to go back to Vegas, and he's literally going to just hang out with his family. And it's like, I mean, to me, that it's something that so many coaches, like you said, don't do. They go, whether it's Jim Calhoun or Lute Olson or whoever, they go until health tells them they can't go anymore.
Well, but look, let's not kid ourselves. The squeak of the sneaker, the bounce of the ball, the smell of a gym, man, it's drug to these guys. And he'll be in the gym, he'll have access to the program. But you know what? He'll have access when he wants. So maybe some Tuesday didn't feel like going and deal with it.
It's not so bad.
I'll be hanging out here. You let me know when you guys are done. You want to grab dinner, So good salute to him for a remarkable career.
All right, so the big question for you, Scott Van Pelt, how worried are you about the rumblings? The rumors already have started about Mark Turgeon to Oklahoma.
Man, it's a fascinating time right now in and around Maryland because the Turgeon topic is a very
flammable.
Well, it's really been like it's pitting Maryland fans against one another because there's a.
We see it on Twitter with you. We see it on Twitter with you. It's great.
That's okay. I mean, there's and here's the thing. Like Mark knows this about me. I support Maryland basketball. Yeah. I grew up with Lefty. I mean, hell, I supported Bob Wade when he was trying to make a go of it. I supported Gary I support Mark, and at some point, Mark won't be the coach, and I'll support whoever is the coach of Maryland basketball. It's like it's part of my identity as a human. I grew up in Cole next to my pop in that building, so like there's a passion for it that is can be positive, but it can be negative when it. Like, I guess I would say to you this. I would ask you this. Is it unreasonable for Maryland fans to say, guy went to one Sweet 16 in 10 years, that's not enough? That's not unreasonable.
That's right.
That's not unreasonable. But is it unreasonable to say, well, the first few years after post-Gary was a total rebuild, then you switch conferences and you look at what they've been since they've been in the Big Ten and say, well, it's 5 of 6 years. They won a game this year, and that, like, are they a losing program? Have they cratered? No, they've not. That's unreasonable. So I have stated that I think that the level of outrage isn't congruent with the results. But that's not unlike a lot of passionate fan bases. There are, hey, look, and by the way, Mark Turgeon wants more.
Of course.
And Damon Evans, the athletic director, wants more. Everybody wants more because, like, but you know what's funny, Jeff, is that, and you know this, before Gary had those 2 years, what were they saying about him? Now, they were consistently getting to Sweet 16s.
No, they wanted to get rid of him.
Of course they did. Of course they did. And so, like, I guess that your tongue is in cheek here when it comes to, am I worried? Like there's part of me that sees the amount of conversation from Maryland fans about this. Yeah. And says, if Turge got a call from a Maryland alum, by the way, Castiglione, who said, hey, would you want this job? Like, there's part of me that would get it if he was like, hey, listen, I'll see you guys and we'll go there. I mean, I would understand if that were his reaction. I think the entire cycle this spring is going to be really interesting because it sounds like, and again, I defer to you, it sounds like there are more to come. And
I think so. I think so. Again, the Sean Miller at my alma mater, it's crazy right now. It's bananas. You hear it every single day, Scott. One day you'll hear he's going to be fired. The next day you'll hear he's going to get an extension. And again, for me, it's like for you, but I'm supposed to be more objective, and I am about Arizona. I try to be, but it's hard to be, right? I mean, it's
we're all from somewhere. It's the line I've said forever is we're all from somewhere. Like, and that's where you went to school, and so you have a different viewpoint of it. But like Sean, like Wade at LSU, like Bill at Kansas, like it's an amazing thing. Years after the fact, like everybody just sort of carried on, and who the hell knows? That's a different topic. But anyway, look, between jobs that are open and between the fact that the portal is like all bets are off, it is a complete mayhem. Yes, that's the word. It is a bar brawl like we'll never have seen. And the thing about every kid that isn't, and maybe even kids that are like starring in their roles where they are, just like fans always want more, I think players always want more. And players convince themselves, even if they're in a good spot, like there's a better spot.
No, they don't convince themselves. Their people convince them.
Yeah. Yeah, could be because everyone wants
times.
Yeah, and everyone they want to go to the league. And by the way, by all means, try to get there. I would never try to dissuade a kid from pursuing it, but it just, unfortunately, as we know, it's not always reasonable to think that the path is considerably improved by changing your station. I get a guy at a lower level.
Yes.
And you covered this. That it's a plague at that level. If you're, say, a Big South coach and you get a guy, he's leaving,
He's
like
good.
You get a CAA guy, probably leaving. And that's tough. But that's another topic. But I just think that the whole spring is the stories that'll come. And then we got a tournament, thank God. And I think it's the storylines are awfully compelling across the board.
Yeah, the ratings, I was surprised, Scott, that the ratings were as high as they are. They were 3% off in the first week than a year ago or 2 years ago. And it surprised me a little bit because, again, we don't have the heavyweights. We don't have Duke, Kentucky to root for or against. Michigan State's already gone. Arizona's not in. I mean, there's a lot of heavyweight programs that weren't in it. I thought it'd be a lot lower, but, people are home. right? People are home more now. I think that probably plays into it. And the storylines are kind of cool. I mean, this Oral Roberts thing is awesome. I don't know if you saw Paul Mills on the podcast that I did with the Kevin Bacon story.
Yeah, we had O'Banner on with us, and A. Smith, Mike Schmitz, who I think does a wonderful job covering prospects, and
the best.
he's so good. And he said A. Smith has really opened eyes. I wonder, like, who's he guard? He's small, but I mean, he could score it, and they were fearless. I mean, they've already played Arkansas this year and had a double-digit lead on them. Ended up losing by double digits because Arkansas could do that to you, flip it in a hurry. But I mean, look, here's the thing about a lot of teams that are like a fun story. There's a little bit of eyes get big, right? The lights get bright, the stage gets big, and all of a sudden it's like, whoa. I don't think those dudes have any of that. Now, how many more games could they win? I mean, they can't win 4 more games.
No,
okay.
They can beat Arkansas.
I put it this way: if they lose, it won't be because the stage is too big. It'll be because Arkansas is too good. And there's a difference because, like, look at North Texas. I have no idea what happened to Purdue in that game. Part of it's North Texas's defense was like they were blocking shots that the Boilermakers like, who was that, right? But then Jay Wright and Nova are like, okay, you guys were a one-day story. Like, to be a 2-game story in this tournament, that's a hell of a lot, And like that takes it back to the Maryland conversation where you realize, like, winning that second game, just getting to that second weekend, that's an accomplishment. It's hard to do. Iowa didn't do it. Illinois didn't do it. Ohio State didn't do it. Hell, only one Big Ten team did do it, which, given what their year was, is a pretty shocking, shocking and disappointing result for a conference that had 9 shots and only got 1 of the 16.
I wonder too how much, being here in person and seeing the crowds, which are sparse, obviously.
Yeah.
Got, Purdue in West Lafayette, it was 9%. I mean, empty. Hinkle's pretty good. Hinkle's the good one. Banker's Life is awful. It's just too big. It's too big. It looks like nobody's there. But I wonder how much, like, again, usually the big teams travel more. Now you've only got a certain amount of tickets anyway. So Oral Roberts has about the same amount of fans, and they probably will this weekend against Arkansas. The other thing, Scott, is they don't go back home in between. Normally, Oral Roberts, Asmus, and O'Banner would go back and get this hero's welcome, and you'd be worried as a coach of, like, oh man,
right?
Is it going to get to their head? Is their head going to? Well, they got none of that here. They can't leave their damn hotel room, so they're not getting that.
There's a lot of that I wonder as it relates to all these sports, like the absence of crowds. Like, you saw it a ton this year. Home court still mattered because you're familiar with the gym and the surroundings, and even though you're not hanging out, going to parties on campus, at least you're familiar with the surroundings. But I do feel like you saw home court not matter as much because you weren't dealing with 10,000, 15,000, however many fans. And I agree that, like, saying Oral having as many as Arkansas, so that makes it kind of a fair fight. But you've been in those buildings.
They're the underdog. Yeah.
Everybody in the building that isn't an Arkansas fan is rooting for Oral Roberts. And they would have had it against Ohio State, and they would have had it against Florida. So I think that the higher seeds, in a way, benefit from not having the crowds in those spots where the games are tight, because you know what it's like, man. I told the story on the pod with Steve about being in Cole 100 years ago when Richmond beat Syracuse, Billy Owens. And, like, I was just there as a person, but I'm cheering for Richmond. Like, my whole family went to Syracuse. Like, they're like, you're rooting for Richmond? I was like, I kind of got caught up, man. There's like 14,000 people were cheering for the underdog, and they won that night.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, like, it's just so weird here. I know you've been to a few. What are the big events that you've been to through the pandemic so far?
Well, I mean, I went to the Masters with no one, and no one. There was no one there, and it was wild. I had gone down to say hello to a player who, his name's Scotty Scheffler, and he's a young-ish guy who I had never met, and he had played really well at the PGA in San Francisco, where I was there as well. But I'd never met him. And so I just wanted to go say hello and introduce myself. And he was on the 18th green. And as I was walking back towards wherever, I just thought I'd see you down the road, yada, yada. And all of a sudden, like, I looked down at my feet, and the grass was really short. And I'm looking around, and I'm like, Oh, hell, I'm standing on the first tee, but there were no ropes because
Nothing.
there didn't need to be ropes because there were no people. But like, so just I had to reorient myself with a place I've been lucky to go for 20 some odd years. But I'm looking around like it was so strange, Jeff. And you know, at Augusta, just like the Final Four, I mean, you think about that, shot for Nova, the ball's in the air, and there's that hush, and then there's that roar. Like that roar that comes up in the building when a shot goes in is etched in your brain forever. Well, at Augusta, same story. Like I can hear Tiger, Tiger, Tiger in my ears for the rest of my life after he, makes that putt in 19 and they win. He wins, I should say. Well, then last year there's just nothing.
Yeah.
And it's so
That's how I feel. Yeah, that's how I feel this year. You don't want to complain because obviously you have a tournament, right? It's great to be able to watch games. But for me, there's 68 teams here, 68 head coaches, 3 assistants, players everywhere. It's like a field day for me if I had access to these guys. I'd be in the hotel up in rooms. Like normally, again, you've got 8 teams at every site, for me, and I'm bouncing around every day to a different site. Here it's like nirvana in a way because everybody's here, but I have no access. They can't leave other than the only access I saw, so they can go to the ball field. They can go to the
I saw that. I remember seeing like Wisconsin. I saw Potter punting a ball.
Correct. That
Big
was my
leg,
video.
by the way. Yeah, exactly. It was your video I saw.
Through the gate, Scott. I got my phone ready and I'm going through the bars of the gate and zooming in as much as I can. And then when they come out, they've got an escort going right back to the hotel. So I'm talking to Musselman through the gate, 6 feet apart. That's the only access. Joe Golding, after Abilene Christian beat Texas, it was at Lucas Oil, and they cut it in half. Okay, they cut Lucas Oil in half so far. And he comes running over to me after they win. And I think I go back. Yeah. I said, Joe, no, don't give me a hug or anything. You'll be done for the damn tournament. No chance. You can't do it. It's just, it's weird. But again, it's better than nothing. It's just, I mean, like Indy right today, there's nobody here. Yeah. Everybody flew home.
Yeah. I don't, we're grateful to have it, right? Of course. But when you know what it is and what it feels like, and you compare it to what it feels like and sounds like, it just isn't. And I have there's a coach. They put it out there, so I can say it. Coach Tillman, who coaches the lacrosse team at Maryland's a guy I've gotten to know. Okay. And I asked him, how are the guys? And he's like, it's rough, man. They get up, they test, they go to virtual class, they come to practice, we could do study hall, they do training table, whatever. They go back to their apartments, they don't see people, there are no parties. They sit there, they wake up the next day, and they do it again. Yeah. And like, there are people in life that sacrifice, that go to war, or who are police men and women, who are firefighters, who are teachers, and who do things that are noble and who make great sacrifices. But let's not minimize what these men and women are sacrificing.
Hey, could you have done it? Could you have done it when you were a college student?
No chance. I'm an adult, and I think about like, could I do it? Are you kidding me? And so I did a Zoom with the team just to say, hey, like, I don't know what this means or if it matters, but just know that the people that are out here appreciate what you all are doing to provide this thing. And I mean that sincerely, because it is a sacrifice, and college isn't what it ought to be for them. And so these events aren't what they ought to be. And I think we all can kind of see around the corner that
it's not that far away.
We're not far away.
Right,
like I know lots of people. It's like, I got my first shot, I got my second. My mom long ago got hers. She's good. Like, and I think that we're not going to have to deal with this as it is. But in the midst of it, it's a whole lot that these men and women and the different men's and women's teams, and all the men and women that are parts of these staffs, and you know how many people there are in the offices, and they're all having to do this to put on this event. So is it not the same? Nope. Is it as good? No. But I'm grateful, sincerely grateful, that these folks are able to hunker down and go through it, because I wouldn't want to do it.
Who is I'm gonna put you in the spot here. Tough
All right.
one. Who's the coach, college hoops coach? You can't be a Maryland coach, that you are always most excited to interview? Who's the guy that you had like the best interview with, or have over and over, that you are just, when you have him on the show, you're like, all right, I can't wait for this one? Is there anybody?
Like Musselman's a fun dude. I'll tell you who I genuinely am excited to talk to every time, and that's Mark Few. You know why? Because he answers your questions, and because he's not full of what he like. They are a blue
He'll say
blood.
it the way he feels. He will.
Correct. No filter. No filter. They're a blue blood. Okay. Blue, like you talk Kansas, Kentucky, Duke, Carolina, Indiana through the years, blah, blah, blah. But they've become what they are now. They're not Loyola, who's underseeded at 8. They're a 1 for a reason. And like they recruit internationally. They get top 10 players in Suggs. They get guys that are going to be lottery picks in Kispert on top of it, who's a 4-year guy, which I love. Proves you don't have to leave early. But anytime you talk to Few, like, and Few, it's always like, we're just, it's kind of a little that smile, and he knows how good they are. But like, there's a lot of guys. Like, I love talking to Beard. Like, Beard's the same way too. Like, he's a guy, he's about toughness, and he recruits it, and his team reflects that kind of identity.
Can I give you my favorite Few story? Quick, like not even a story. I was at practice years ago in Spokane, and he's coaching in his like jean shorts. First of all, right? He's just whatever. He's probably come from fishing earlier. Practice ends. Literally, he's like, "All right, come on." We walk about 100 yards to a tap, and we're drinking beers. Literally, I'm talking like less than 5 minutes after practice ends. I'm like, all right, this is the greatest thing ever. I mean, come on.
I should know the name of the bar because my guy Neil Everett is a big Gonzaga guy, and it's some Smokies
Jack and whatever it is.
Yeah, two people's names. That's it. That you were there.
I want to say Jack and Diane's, but it's not Jack and Diane.
It's not a John Cougar song. But I mean, and I don't care what sport it is. I appreciate, because it's hard to maintain touch with reality and being grounded. And Fewey's that dude. Like he told me after the Baylor game didn't happen. He's like, yeah, me and Huggy, we put the game together on the back of a cocktail napkin in 5 minutes, which is, I don't doubt is true.
Oh, it's true.
But not everybody would share. Like, not that there's anything to hide about that story, but just not, what it is. Not everybody gives you what it is, what's the truth is, or the specifics about how things happen. I just, do you root for people in the business? You outside of waving a flag for the team I grew up rooting for, you're objective. Like, there are a lot of great stories, but I think a lot of people in the sport, if Gonzaga were to cap this off, would say, that's a guy and a program who you can feel good about them winning because they've been on this trajectory for a long time.
Yep. You also love Fewey because he defended your boy Gary Williams years ago. I was at a blackjack table with the ops guy at Maryland at the time, okay? And he came after me because I had been critical of Gary towards the end. And he literally, it's just us on the blackjack table. We're at the Palms. And he is coming at me about Gary. And Fewey's behind us. He's not playing, but he's right behind us, laughing at the whole thing. This dude he is relentless. Relentless enough at the end, Scott. I looked at him and I said, how much is it going to take for me to buy you off this table? Like, whatever it is, $500, $1,000, just so you can get the hell out of here. Now, I've become friendly with him since. But Fewey was defending the hell out of Gary. Now, I think he thought it was humorous that this guy was killing me for 2 hours.
We're nothing if not relentless. We're nothing if not relentless. And again, at the moment, we're in the middle of that. We're some are pitted against each other. People are anti me because they think I don't want Maryland to be great.
Pro Turge. Yeah, you're pro Turge because you're pro Maryland.
Well, I all I say to people that pretend like it's been a catastrophe that is inaccurate. But if you want to have the conversation that can be better, we agree that I want it to be better. Just again, don't make up things that aren't accurate. Don't make up lies like. And I always say Wake Forest, and I don't mean to be mean to Wake Forest, but like point to a program. They went to Final Four. Like haven't been in the tournament since I don't know when. Like just don't act like it's that. Right. But fans, like I don't think being unreasonable as fans is unique to any one group. Like
I'll tell you, no, I can attest to the fact that it's not.
You hate every team. I know, and you tell me that. You send me a text right before you tweet about a team to say, "Hey, Van Pelt, watch how much Kentucky thinks I hate him. Indiana thinks I hate him. Maryland thinks I hate him." Yeah. I'm kidding, obviously, but every fan base thinks.
Arizona thinks I hate him. I had to check in under assumed name in Tucson years ago. I mean, come on.
Come on. Like I get our ops guy wanted to wreck you, but I don't understand. Bear down for Arizona wants to get after you.
Of course, I want him to be good. Now, can I say it like publicly, rah? No, but of course I want Arizona to be good, which is the very difficult position right now for any Arizona fan. Is it best to sever ties with Sean Miller today, or is it best to give him an extension? I say, honestly, and I like Sean. I think he's a really good coach. I say it's best to sever ties with him today.
Wow. Well, at some point, I think Arizona has to fear that knock at the door, right? I mean, at some point, unless there was an FBI meeting years ago with a bunch of charts and stuff that led to nothing. Well, I shouldn't say nothing. I mean, books like Don't Tell Me It's Nothing, like it was real for some, but these programs have continued largely untouched. Look at Oklahoma State. Like think about that. And did I enjoy the Cade Cunningham story this year? Sure. He's a wonderful player, and Coach Boynton did a nice job with the team, and it was fun to see that building with some energy. Like that's a fun program when they're good. How does that appeal not get heard before the NCAA tournament, one way or the other? And once they got good, there was no way that you could pull the plug because it's like, well, wait a minute, they might get in. Oh, wait, they might be on the 8-9 line. Oh, crap, they might be a 4. Yep. And there were people that thought they were underseeded as a 4. So, like, again, Oklahoma State fans, I don't hate your team. I enjoyed watching them be in the tournament, and I enjoyed Cunningham all year. But, like, it's just astounding to me that doesn't even happen all year. And then these other ones that were part of that, like, nothing happened. I tell every coach I know, cheat your balls off. Right. Because what difference does it make? Nothing happens.
You're absolutely right. I mean, at this point, like, again, we'll see what happens at the conclusion of all these, but it's taken so long. We almost are immune to everything now. It's like, who cares?
And you know what it actually is? I think it's even different than that, Jeff. I think it's not who cares. I think when the suggestion is that Zion got money to go to Duke, good. He should. Right. And here's why. Because the players should get money and should be compensated for name and likeness, which I agree with, has reached a point where it is so much support for that, so much vocal support for that the suggestion that somebody did actually get money, which they weren't allowed to get.
People like they should have.
Yeah, exactly right. He was still underpaid. So no one cares. Nobody cares.
Or they were getting it anyway. Like to me, it's like the name, image, likeness. They're all getting paid anyway, is what people say. So why not let them get paid legally?
Yeah, and again, and I want to make sure I'm consistent. And to say they get nothing is not true because they do, as we know. You get plenty in terms of compensation. And Zion benefited massively by being the face of that Duke program for that year. He came in a known guy, yes, but he reached a rare level as a result.
He's not going to be the number one pick. He was not going to be the number one pick coming to Duke.
And he wasn't going to get the numbers he got for his shoe deal either. So there was benefit. That said, they should still be able to benefit from name likeness and image 1,000% because they shouldn't be, their sweat equity shouldn't go into somebody else's pocket. They ought to be able to participate in that. Maybe it's semantics. It's just the idea that they're doing it for free. It ain't free, but it's also not reasonable compensation for what they provide.